Hey there everyone, this is Mystic Fish and welcome to episode 10 of our Factorio Space Age series where we're designing self-building mining ships. Last episode we introduced the old asteroid belt here to circulate asteroid chunks around the outside of the ship, and that's going to give us the ability to move at least some parts of the ship operations away from the hub. Which will be good because it'll allow us to introduce more crushers, which, as we mentioned, were the current bottleneck. So I think we're going to do this. This may span a few episodes. I don't know if the ship is really going to get that much bigger, but we're going to rearrange a lot of stuff. So we're going to have to wait and see how that's going to work out for us. So let's see. I think what I want to do is I want to come back and look at redoing the sort of thruster section of the ship. So right now, just to, if you'll recall, this chem plant right here makes water and thruster oxidizer and thruster fuel and sulfuric acid. And we can definitely do the water and fuel and oxidizer out of band, and then move or add a crusher for that stuff down here, and then that will reduce what this chem plant is going to be responsible for. So I want to design that. So I'm going to grab this much here. And let's see, I want to center this. Where is it centered? There? Maybe there. Guess we can figure this out like this. We got like measuring sticks here. Okay, so that's 11 and that's 11. Okay, good. Although I guess it doesn't really matter that it's centered, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to work here with these ghosts and sort of redesign a back section of the ship. So we're just going to clear some of this stuff out for right now. And so this will be the asteroid belt coming around. I also want to introduce an ammo belt. One of the things that I noticed, and we covered this last time, was right now the back of the ship is just defended by a couple of turrets in the middle. And I did actually, at one point, the ship was stopped mid-flight because crushing is a bottleneck. It was in the middle of like crushing metallic ores here for smelting, and we weren't able to make fuel, so we actually came to a halt. And it's a good thing that I actually did defend the backside of the ship, because this turret right here did take out a medium asteroid that like showed up right here about to crush, do damage to the ship. But fortunately, this was able to take it out. So we do need to put some defense around the backside of the ship, but it's kind of a pain to have the ammo belt running down the center. And it's not a lot of leeway in here, right? Like this barely covers the outside. So having an ammo belt will allow us to defend the sides of the ship more easily and in an expandable fashion as we go. So we're going to introduce that there. Okay, let's now talk thrusters. So I think we'll eventually be able to fit 7 thrusters across the back of this thing, which I don't think we need yet, but we can arrange it this way. I think right now we're barely using the one thruster we have, so I think we're good with just a single thruster for a little while longer. We'll see if we agree with that or not as we go. And so let's then arrange how we're going to feed all of the fluids in here. And so I think the easiest way to do that is something like this. Where we just connect these things across. Like that. And then if we just wanted to do the one in the center, we can do this. And then we can take this off and this off. Okay, and then well, here's a good question. How do we want to, I would like to see if I can get like a turret nestled in here somewhere, like this. Which means we could feed it like that. Let's just put filters on things so we know what things they're supposed to be moving. As long as I can reach the ammo belt. So, so the question is, can we put this up against the... Well, now I kind of, you know what? I kind of want to put all those thrusters back. How far back can I go here? Okay. All right, because I would be very interested to see if we could do something like this and get a pump in here. Or do we want a pump in there? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I'm overthinking this, I think. Okay, never mind. We're just going to do this. Get rid of this stuff, and this stuff, and this stuff. You connect there, we get rid of that, and we get rid of that. And we put a gun turret in here. Nestled in there, and then we feed it like that. Okay. So, that means that... Because the other thruster would be here, so I can actually do this. And hop it up here. And hop this up there. And then we can put this right up against the belts. We need this to be centered right there. Okay, good. So that works. Good. So that's a centered thruster with some defense in the back. So that's good stuff. And that will cover, that'll cover us for right now. I think later we can add some turrets over here in the sides if we want. Okay, so this is going to pop up here. This is going to pop up here, which means we have to fill in this stuff. And then the question is, can we get tanks in here on both of these? I wonder if I'm going to run into the hub here as I'm making stuff. I don't think I will, so I think this is okay. Maybe I do. Well, they'd hit each other if I did that, so I don't want to do that. But what I can do, so now let's talk chem plants. We were doing this with recipe switching on a single chem plant, but I don't think we'll be able to do that. Here. Ooh. Do Do we like this? I guess we need... I was wondering if we could do this. To put... I guess this would need to be oxidizer, right? So that needs to be that recipe. That means this has to be the fuel. But no, this is no good. Because I don't really have... I want to put these here so I can get the crusher over here. But... what if we do... oh man, I really wish this... it's like we're off by like a little bit. Oh no, because you know what? I need to get pumps in here too. All right, so I can't do this anyway. All right, so let's get rid of this stuff for a minute. Because we need pumps, which we will allow us to control our speed and fuel consumption. So that means if we do that, we can do this and this. Then, am I still going to run into the same problem? That can feed that. We could do... because we need to put water in here. So that connects to that water. And that can connect to that water. And then we can come up this way. I do want to I want to see how much water, I want to be able to see how much water I have. So then I think I can do this. Okay, so that will feed all of those. Okay, so except that that's no good because I have no way to get the ice in here yet. So I think I want to slide these like this. Okay, and then this guy can go there. And that gets water up to there. I suppose I want to connect that too. And then we'll be able to get belts. So I think we want belts across here like this. And so if we put ice on the top belt, that will be okay. Ice melting. So ice has to go on the top belt here. And then I guess probably something from each of those. We would put ice and calcite on the top belt, I guess. No, calcite needs to be on the bottom belt. So carbon has to go on the top because we only have room for one inserter here. Okay, so then this is going to be the fuel, that guy, and this guy is going to be the oxidizer. Okay, good stuff. Okay, good. We're going to connect all of these. We need to put underground belts like that. For some reason, when you put ghosts of undergrounds down, they don't face the right direction. I don't know, it's a little weird. Okay. Let's see. Then, okay, now we've got all of the tanks connected. So we can come down here and we can say you're only going to be enabled if we have, let's say, less than 750 oxidizer. Is that actually the right recipe? It is. The oxidizer comes over here and yeah, it comes from here. Okay, good. So that's correct. This will be here. We should say you'll be enabled if we're short on water. Let's just call it 500. And then we can also connect this one, and we'll say this is when fuel less than 750. So we can't do recipe switching with the chem plants because we won't have the benefit of having sort of the hub as a big chest, and we will have to unload ingredients if we were doing recipe switching. But chem plants are pretty cheap to make, so I think this will be okay. All right, and then that gives us room over here. I guess this is going to continue up this way and this way just to sort of complete our the whole module here. And then we need a crusher like this here. It doesn't really matter where. I guess we can tuck it in close here. I think we want, let's see. We will need one of these to hop a little bit. That goes that way. That gets rid of that one. Okay. And so that is so we can get asteroid chunks back out onto the asteroid belt. And we do it this way so that we can get any output asteroid chunks go on both sides of the belt. So that is important. And then we need asteroid chunks in. And then let's see, up here, we're gonna get 4 different products out of here. And so one of these goes on this belt. I don't think I can do it this way. Okay, good. That's okay. This goes here. Okay, so that gets all of the possible crushing products out. So let's figure out what we needed here. So we know that this belt has to have calcite and carbon because it only has the one inserter. So this has to be calcite and carbon. So I don't think it really matters which goes where. So we'll say that's calcite, and then this one will be carbon. Actually, I'm going to reverse those because there is more carbon to output than there is calcite. So that's better because the the big hand is just going to be slower. And then I guess after that it doesn't matter. I guess we've got ice on the top belt, which is I guess what we just figured out. So it doesn't matter which one of these is ice, and one of these will need to be iron ore. Okay, now that looks good. What else we need to do? We need to, I want to put efficiency modules in here. And let's see. And that's because, you know, being able to cut down on the size of the ship. Remember, we're limited on power to just solar panels because that's the only source of power we can actually manufacture on the ship from asteroids. So we want to, where we can, cut down on energy consumption if we can get away with it without sort of needing the modules for something else. So, so efficiency modules it is. Now, let's see. We need to do a variety of circuit stuff. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to be able to control these pumps here. And I want to start doing some more, maybe some fancier control. I kind of want to test this out. So we'll see how this works out together. So first thing I want to do is I want to just make a more even flow, if I can, of the fuel. Now, we get the best fuel efficiency when thrusters are sort of at 20% full or less. So they may as well be 20% full, because you don't really get more efficiency from running leaner than that. And so that's the most thrust you can get. So 20%, so we can see down here on the lower right, the thruster consumes 120. 1/5 of that would be 24 per second. A pump can pump 1,200 per second. So if we want the pump to really just put 24 per second through, it only needs to operate 2% of the time. And so 2% of 60 ticks is like 1.2 ticks. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a timer to count ticks. And we'll do that. We'll do this as follows, which is we'll let T count up to 60 and then reset. Yeah, that's a clock. And then we'll connect that via red wire here. And then we will assume that we are connecting the tanks to the hub eventually. Like, this is one of the things we have in this design, is we do have like one green wire which goes between both the asteroid belts and the hub and all of the fluid tanks. And so that green wire just tells us everything we have. So we can assume that we have that. And in addition, if you recall, we are reading the speed as well from up here. So we will be able to get the V signal here. And so I think what we can do is just connect this in here. And then what we're going to say here is on the red wire, since it only needs to run for 2 ticks out of 60, if T is less than 2, so in other words, when it's 0 or 1, and the velocity is less than 20, that's what we're currently going at. We may have to come back and revisit this. Then we want to give the thruster sign. Okay, and then we'll connect that to these pumps. Say these pumps are only active if the thruster signal is greater than 0. Copy, paste. Okay, good. All right, so that should smooth out our fuel consumption, at least when we're adding fuel to the tanks. So I think that will help us out some in terms of better fuel efficiency. I'm not otherwise really very worried about oscillations in speed. As long as we've got sort of an average speed going, it should all sort of work out. Like, we've got enough buffer space for both ammo and asteroid chunks that those are the main sort of things that would really vary, right? The rate at which you consume ammo or encounter asteroids. And so I think it's okay if it fluctuates as we go. All right, now we can also do recipe switching on this crusher here. So we need our, not that one, this one. We need our recipe latch here. And I guess we'll put that right there. Now let's see what the slowest one of these. This takes 5 seconds. This takes 5 seconds. This takes 5 seconds. These each take or well, that takes 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2 seconds. So 5 seconds is the slowest. But each of these only takes one asteroid chunk worth of input. So the way that we're going to do this, we can really reduce this. It can really just be probably 1 second is enough, or a little more than a second. It's a little more than 2 seconds, isn't it? Yeah, that's fine, because that's really only going to be used if we get stuck for some reason, I believe. So that's fine. And then the output of this goes here, and the done signal will come back here. So this is going to be set recipe and read recipe finished with our check mark. Okay, that's good. Now we have to do recipe stuff here. So what are the recipes that we might use? We've got regular iron ore. We don't need copper down on this, so the regular iron ore is fine. We're going to need carbon. We don't need sulfur, so just the regular carbonic is fine. But then we are actually going to need both. We definitely need the advanced oxide crushing because we need calcite. But it turns out that if we look at this recipe, this doesn't produce very much ice, and we'll need more ice anyway, so we also will need to do the oxide crushing, the regular oxide crushing here. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we need to feed that in on the red wire, and then we need to look at some stuff. So what is the stuff that we need to look at? Well, I think we want to look at this belt here, and this inserter. We'll feed those in there. I think it doesn't really matter which ones of these we do. I think we can do these. And these will be read belt contents hold, but not all belts, just the one tile that they're connected to. So these specific belts. And then we are also going to read hand contents. And so the idea is that we're going to we need to look at these belts to figure out what stuff we still need, right? So it should be, since everything is downstream over here, it should be the case that, if we see materials backed up to here, we don't need any more of it. And in fact, this is not actually where I want to do this, because I want to make sure there's a lot of room down here before we get to that. This is going to be this. And that's because, for example, if we look at this recipe, it's going to produce 20 iron ore. So if we decide that, hey, you know what? Like, I don't see iron ore backed up, right? Where is that? I don't see iron ore backed up to here. That's going to be our trigger for, hey, we need some. Well, then I'm going to produce 20 iron ore. And so I need to make sure there's at least, since it only goes on half the belt, right, this bottom half here, each belt can hold 8 things, but the bottom lane of the belt only holds 4. So if I'm producing 20, I need to make sure there's room for 20 iron ore here. So I need to make sure there's at least 5 belts worth of space on this side, so that if we decide that we have not backed up to this point, whatever we add is going to get in there. So that's what I think we want. And we'll see. I think this should be okay. Right. So let's figure out then what we want to do here. So we're going to do this like we've done a lot of things before. So when the red signal is 1, this is the regular metallic asteroid. So we want there to be a chunk available, a metallic chunk, right? And that means that there's one here, or the inserter has already picked one up. The reason we need to check the inserter is that when it picks it up, we might get the recipe swapped out from under us if we didn't do that. So we want to do that. And we also want to look at the belts. And if the belt we're looking at says that we're not full of iron ore, then I should output that, say I need a metallic chunk. Okay, same thing with the carbonic. And so this will be that I have a carbonic asteroid available. And I'm missing carbon. Okay, then there's actually, I think, the only case that matters for calcite is, or the advanced one, the advanced oxide is that, well, we definitely need to check that we have an oxide chunk available. But I think we only want to do this if we're missing calcite. And the good news here is that we use enough extra ice that it should be the case, I think if my calculations are right, that that if we're missing ice, like that, well, first off, we also need to make sure there's an oxide chunk available on green. So we need to be missing ice and not missing calcite. If that's the case, we just want the ice recipe. And I think that's really all we need. And then we can do a selector combinator. We'll do this. So this will pick, if it's sort descending, pick the first thing. That's going to pick the highest one. Highest priority thing is going to be one of the two ice ones. I think that's right because we will need ice to make water before we can make any fuel or oxidizer. So I think that's right. And then I think this goes in as the recipe input to the recipe latch. Okay. And then I think the last thing that I want to do is I do want to just make sure we're defending back here. I guess we'll do there. And we'll do there. Let's see. This is the ammo belt. We can feed the ammo belt in there. And that's not the ammo belt, turns out. This is the ammo belt. Okay, right, ammo belt's on the inside. Okay, good. Then I think this is our back module for the moment, or at least this is the next one that I want to like test out. We have a little extra space here, so we may as well try to get a couple solar panels in here. So I can get one there, and if I moved this to here, then I can get one there too. So I think it's good, you know, it'll be good to just cram in some solar panels wherever we can. I think later we'll have to redesign this when we want to add thrusters to go faster. But I believe that this can keep up with keeping probably a couple of thrusters at 20% fuel. So, so this should last us for a little while. And now we have the rear module for the ship. Okay, I'm just going to put filters on these. I think it's helpful, especially because sometimes it's sort of non-deterministic when things get built with filters. Oh, speaking of filters, this one should use filters. That's fine. We'll filter it to chunks because that's all it should pick up. Which chunk it will put in here is going to depend on the recipe, which will be driven by what we need and what's available. So that should be okay. And then this should only put asteroid chunks out as well. And then we can copy that there. Okay. Do we have any other inserters that need filtering? I mean, I think just for clarity and because it makes for nice documentation, we can just make it clear that this is calcite and carbon, which means that this is going to be calcite. Means that this one will be iron ore. It means these will be ice. Okay, that has sort of documented what everything is meant to be. So, okay, so so I think what we're going to do is we're just going to make a blueprint of this for right now. And we're going to just call this the thruster module. And we're going to give it a thruster. And we're just going to hold on to this for a moment, because we need to do some more design work than just this. So we are also going to need to come and rearrange the smelting and rearrange the oil processing as well. So those are going to have to get redone as modules as well. So I think, though, that I'm going to leave those for a different episode, and I think we'll just stop this episode here. But this is the general idea, right? We want to make, now that we can produce spacecraft stuff here, we have the opportunity to like add some crushers sort of out in the wild, if you will, not next to the hub. And that will let us rearrange more of the stuff to make it more modular and make it so that, for example, we can add thrusters. We're also going to revisit the front side of the ship as well, I think. Up here where the collectors are. So yeah, and the turrets as well. So we got a lot of rearranging to do here, but we'll get started. So this is going to take a couple more episodes, but bear with us. And then again, fortunately, I don't think the ship is going to get too much bigger during this phase. So I don't know. It remains to be seen if that is true. But in that case, it means that I think what we've already got here, the good news is if it doesn't get much bigger, we should be able to just relatively quickly build the missing stuff we need and set it as sort of the proper victory conditions here, and then take the phase 14 blueprint, which will be able to produce everything that we need for when we stamp this down. This will eventually become phase 15. And I think that's really going to be an important milestone, because the the ship that ends up using these modules will really be the basis for the actual mining ships. So once we get to that point and we've rearranged stuff where we can now produce everything that we need, including the space stuff, reasonably quickly, then we'll be able to start adding stuff to do the mining that we want to do, which will be pretty exciting because that's actually the whole point of getting to this. Excuse me. Getting to this point anyway is to make mining ships. So that'll be fun. But we've certainly left several problems for future Mystic Fish. So stay tuned for that. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Until then, bye.